Hi, I'm Martin with the ACA here at the B2B Club. It's for anyone that serves businesses, the best investment of your time. If you serve business, it should be with other people that serve businesses. So it's a great organization, interest group within the ACA. And we have the privilege of having David Telisman here today. We'll back to him in a second, but also Dan Madasz is a club manager out of Shawnee, Kansas. And there's Dan. Welcome, Dan.
Well, thank you. I feel welcome.
So he's our guest interviewer today. And so got an amazing background as well. But I'll turn over here to Dan and look forward to learning more about David. So
good. Well, David, yeah, I just wanted to, you've got 20 years of writing and marketing. So just tell us just a couple minutes about, your history and in business, and then we'll go with the questions, okay?
Sure, yeah. So as you mentioned, 28 years professional writing, did a stint as a high school English teacher in there, worked in corporate communications for a while, and I started my company a little over 8 years ago, David Telisman Communications, and we are a content marketing firm. And we work with a lot of small businesses in various industries to make sure that when you meet a business owner in a networking event, they do a very good job telling you what they do and communicating their value proposition. But there's often a disconnect between their online brand and their in-person brand. And so that's what we do, is we bridge that. So we make sure that when people are looking for you or looking for a service that you provide, what they see on your website, on social media, is the same company or person that they meet in person.
Good. Well, David, thank you. And so, we start with the most basic question, which is a great one, and that is, what does content marketing mean? So answer that for everybody.
Right. Well, it's one of these amorphous terms in marketing among many others. So I'll put some shape to it. So content marketing it's essentially storytelling with a strategy. It's creating valuable, relevant content. So we're talking about like blogs, videos, social media posts, emails, newsletters, podcasts that helps build trust with your audience over time. And so the idea is that you're not constantly selling, you're educating, entertaining, or solving problems so that people want to engage with your brand. And then when they're ready to buy, guess who they're going to think of first, right? You, me, whoever is that content marketing service provider.
Yeah, and I know this wasn't one of the questions, but you've done this for years. Is there a particular industry or industries that you have delved into that you've helped a lot?
I've touched so many of them, and I come by that organically because when I was doing this in corporate, I worked for companies that had products and services that were used across the board for all different industries. So my client portfolio is pretty diverse. I've got attorneys, I've got CPAs, I've got roofing contractors, I've got retailers. And, it really comes down to my job is to understand the business owner, the business, the culture, and then very importantly, their audience so that we create this high quality original content that they read, that they appreciate, and ultimately that motivates them to reach out.
And, I know this wasn't, again, one of the questions, but you sparked something in my mind, and that is, what you've found is the greatest hindrance, or is it a hindrance for you to really understand what they're trying to communicate? Is that a challenge for you to grab really where they're trying to go and understanding their business model and what their services are? You went to sleep on
us. So there was a period of freezing right there, and it's not you, it's me. No, I'm getting an internet. Yeah, good.
Yeah, we'll try again. No problem. Do you find it difficult for them to be able to communicate to you what they're actually trying to accomplish. Is that a challenge?
It's a good question. So when I'm qualifying a prospect, this is a business owner that already buys into the value of marketing. They don't, and I need to get them to buy into me. They don't know, they might not necessarily know exactly what it is that they want, but they know, okay, I need to up my marketing game. I am not active on social media. I I haven't posted on LinkedIn for months. I have a giant
Mhm.
list of contacts in my email database, and I'm not reaching out to them. And they know that their competitors are marketing
Yes.
themselves. And so there's kind of that urgency and that need.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, because I've been there, not quite sure. I've approached someone and I go, what is it that I need to do?
Right.
So,
And trust is a huge factor. And so
mhm.
by the time I'm sitting down with someone at a meeting, there's been some sort of trust developed. Either I've been referred or I've met that person at a networking event or there's been an email introduction.
Yes. And David, you have a great question here. I'm so glad. What are AI hallucinations? Because that's really what we're talking about is we're moving to AI because that's something you utilize quite a bit. So what are the AI hallucinations?
Right, and I should back up that I've been speaking a lot on AI, ChatGPT, ever since it hit the scene. And as a practitioner, I know what it can do, what it can't do, what it's good at, what it needs to work on. And hallucinations are one of these things. And it's this phenomenon where it's if you give it a prompt or ask it a question, it will go rogue and tell you something that's completely fabricated, incorrect. I, I mean, one of the best examples, I was asking it, oh, uh, I was doing some research on marketing, and the question I asked had nothing to do with what it told me, and it proceeded to just give me all this information about the War of 1812 out of nowhere. And so I told it politely, I said, I think you're hallucinating. And this is ChatGPT, and it said back, oh my gosh, you're right. I am sorry. Let me give you the right information. So AI can hallucinate without the use of hallucinogenics. But I will say that, and I looked at some data recently, that these instances are occurring farther and fewer between, that they're getting much better at not hallucinating, but they still do it. And it's just, that's one of the shortcomings of AI, this technology. I mean, it's really new. It's very advanced, but it's still kind of new.
Yeah, and David, that kind of leads into the next question is what about AI gives you the chills, good or bad? Now, what is it about it? Because you kind of touched on that for a moment, but what is it about it that, the good and the bad?
Well, I'll start with the good. The good is that, I mean, it's incredible. Its capabilities are remarkable, what it can do, right? And it can be very helpful in all aspects of life. If you And really the way I approach it is I see this as something that is a good problem solver. Everyday life, if you need a recipe, it will tell you one. If you want to plan an itinerary for a vacation, it will spit that out in seconds. In my line of work, I mean, I use it for research. I use it to help me with outlines. I So it really is this time saver, and it creates efficiencies. And because of that, because of efficiencies it could create, say, with work, that frees up your time for other things. That what might have taken you an hour before AI, and it takes you maybe 10 minutes now, when you start doing the math, that's like, oh, okay, so I have 50 more minutes I could spend hanging out with my kids. So that, and it's just, where it goes from here, that gives me the good chills. The bad chills are, and we're seeing this a lot, is that it has a propensity to spread misinformation and disinformation, and there are bad actors who are very aware of that, and they weaponize that, and that could be very harmful, very misleading, sows division, and we've got a little too much of that these days. It also, people rely on it too much, in the sense that many people rubber stamp it. Whatever it gives them, they look at that as scripture. It's okay. Looks good to me. You really need to review it, because the information could be bad. You could be overlooking a hallucination. You need to make sure that it doesn't sound like AI, right? And so it's our responsibility to train it. And what I've noticed is, it helps you think, right? But once you surrender all your thinking to it, then that spells trouble, because then you're not using your brain, and that part of your brain is going to not develop the way it should be. It could deteriorate. If you're using it to do 5 or 10% of your thinking, okay. But when you're putting your, figuratively, your life in its hands, that's not a good practice. And then finally, there's, we keep hearing this, that the biggest fear is if and when it becomes sentient, able to have feelings and emotions, essentially have a mind of its own. And then we're looking at a doomsday scenario, or the Terminator, and I know that seems kind of fatalistic and far-fetched, but we just have to be careful. We have to be the responsible users of it.
And David, just following up on that, as business owners, if we're putting out misinformation, I mean, there could be some serious liability, using that in a business. And so I think, as you mentioned, to review it, to inspect it, and not rely too heavily on that is very important. It could make you lazy and get you into trouble.
Well, that's exactly it. And we've seen a lot of instances of that. There was a situation with an attorney, if I'm recalling correctly, who used it to cite case law that it fabricated, that didn't exist. And this attorney got disciplined. I don't know if they got disbarred, but you have to be, I tell people, be curious, be leery, right? I mean, if you want to know what it could do, just ask it. And if it can't do it, it'll tell you. But you have to be leery. You have to know, again, you have to be in charge. And that is what I really try to convey is, I'm not going to we shouldn't rely on OpenAI, the parent company of ChatGPT, or any of the big tech executives, to put ethics first. We've seen that historically not done. So if we know how to use it, and again, if we're responsible, if we inject our own ethics into it, then I think we'll be okay.
Well, that's good. Well, we're about at time, Martin, aren't we? That
We open it to the audience.
yeah, we've got questions
Can you
here.
repeat?
And John, if you have a question, we can turn the screen around.
Just repeat. You can repeat it to him.
What's that?
You can just repeat it to him.
Okay, all right. So anybody have a question here? Or John, do you have a question for David?
I guess the question I would ask is kind of what are some um, maybe a couple of just short use cases for a business owner. So somebody who hasn't really done much with AI, how would you recommend they get started? A couple things that they start to try out.
That's a good one. Yeah, go ahead there, David.
Using it for email, it's very good at creating templates as long as you feed it some important details. It could create a series of emails, and this is a big time saver, right? Outreach and follow-ups, things like that. Another use case is having it help you ideate when it comes to, and I'll go back to writing. Let's say you need to put a presentation together. It can give you a very good outline of that. And then you kind of fill in the blanks. And beyond the writing capabilities, it can create a PowerPoint deck. It can create spreadsheets. It can convert documents. It has multimedia utility too. It generates images and video. And, again, it's not always going to be, it could be a crapshoot with the accuracy of the video and images, but that's where we have to really pay attention and follow up with it. If the email isn't quite how you want it, tell it, and it'll get you maybe 90% there. But again, you need to be in charge and make sure that it's capturing the proper tone, voice, the messaging, and you don't want it to sound like it's AI.
So thank you, David. Lady, gentlemen here, anybody have a question? I'll repeat it.
I got one.
Yes, go ahead.
So since you work in both marketing and work with AI, how have you combined those together?
So David, if you heard that, the question is combining AI and marketing.
Content marketing.
Content marketing, how do you combine them is the question.
Sure. So I'll give you another use case, an example. Social media. That is a form of content marketing, and it's very good for social media campaigns. So for example, if you write an article, blog post, think piece, and you want to have a series of LinkedIn posts about that, that's a very good way to use it. You can ask it, okay, here's this content that I wrote. Please create 10 LinkedIn posts. And it will do it. It will add emojis. It will add the hashtags. It'll structure it the right way. And again, review it. You always have to be your quality control on it.
So follow-up question with that. I'm glad you brought that up. So since we've had AI for a couple years writing posts, there's been like a number of telltale signs of tone or just idioms that AI uses where you can tell it's written by AI. How have you been able to take that output to make it sound more human outside of just manual editing? Is there any sort of process you've gone where you can train AI to avoid those known AI isms, or is it just kind of like a manual massaging process after you get your output?
So let's first identify what those telltale terms and signs are. They are, I found this with ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and a lot of them. It's just this overuse of any form of the words aim, foster, navigate, ensure, journey. See M dashes everywhere where there should be commas. I could spot AI writing from a mile away. It takes me a second to spot it. So the best way that I've found so far to correct that is it is that manual editing. so that is a part of it. That is still necessary. However, this is fascinating and also concerning, but the more you use it, the more it learns your style.
Yep.
To
There
the
you
point
go.
where you don't always have to give it new prompts. That said, it will slack off. And that's different than hallucinating, right? I mean, it'll slack off in that it'll give you the content you want, but it'll still use those terms. And I will tell you when in the beginning when I was using it, I would say under no circumstances are you to use those words I mentioned, right? Ensure, foster, all those. And it said, okay, memory updated, understood. And then next time it didn't, and I got kind of upset with it and I reprimanded it. And then there was an article posted in Forbes a couple of years ago, and it studied ChatGPT users. And what it found out was that users that were polite to it, please, thank you, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, got better information. So fascinating, terrifying, and I'm nice to it now, and it hallucinates less, and I get better information.
Wow. Wow, that is incredible. Isn't that, would that help? Did that help you
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit?
it
Yeah, that was good. Does anybody else have a question?
No.
Oh, Peter.
So other than ChatGPT and like the open AIs, are there any other AI tools that you have found to help business owners?
So did you hear the question, David?
I believe so.
Besides Chat EBT, are there other platforms that you've utilized that you've found were very helpful?
So I've utilized Claude. Claude, I would say, is probably better at writing than ChatGPT, and then Google Gemini. It's baked into Google Chrome. I'm an Android user. Take that, iPhone people. And so it's baked in there. It's also with G Suite. So if you're using Google Docs, Google Sheets, it's baked into that. And what does that mean is that it will assist you. You can, if I'm working in a Google Doc, which is like a Word document, there's always a kind of like a chat bot that will ask, oh, do you want me to polish this? Since I'm a writer, I say, nice of you to offer, but no, thank you. And it could also create images. I don't think it's quite where ChatGPT is. And the reason why I use ChatGPT the most is biggest brand, first to the market. Does that mean that it's better than the others? Not necessarily.
Hey, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Getting into the weeds here just a little bit. So for your content marketing, getting like LinkedIn post ideas, do you
Mhm.
tend to use the reasoning models or the non-reasoning models more? Which one's giving you better output?
Right. And we're talking specifically about ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude.
Right. So I'm glad you brought that up. They all have different models, and there's the free tier and there's the paid tier, and the difference is you get more for your money. The reasoning, within ChatGPT, you've got your flagship, right? It's 4.0, which is where it defaults to, but then it's got 3 and 0.1 mini and all these. And I don't use it for coding. I don't use it for like advanced mathematics. But when it comes to reasoning and when it comes to kind of standard use, I really haven't seen a difference between the models. There's, ChatGPT 04 mini is faster, right? I mean, you get much faster output. The accuracy isn't on par with the default. But I wonder sometimes, well, why does it have all these different models if there's so many similarities? And I think it's, they're building their brand. Yeah.
David, I had a question. When you mentioned that if you're polite to ChatGPT or whatever, and
Right.
Jess here, she kind of said it's correct what you said, that,
Right.
How is it that, I'm just curious, how is it that if you're polite, what's programmed in that would do that? It's nicer to you.
It's based on neurolinguistics. It learns your voice, it learns your intonations, and it learns the neurolinguistics models that are built into it actually understand the attitude that you are delivering through your words.
Did you hear the answer, David? Did you hear
I
that?
did. So whoever said that is absolutely
Dan.
correct. Yes, that's
Okay,
that's
well,
a very good
yeah,
point.
that's just
Well,
incredible.
and the reason I know this is we have people now that are making appointments for Medicare appointments and using AI, and it's an AI voice. It's not a human being. It's an AI voice that actually responds to you. When you pick up the phone and call and talk to them, you're talking to AI, you're not talking to a person. Okay?
Right. And so
And it's actually, we're working on an insurance project right now where we intend to use AI for everything. We won't use a human being.
Well, we'll be eliminated very soon.
Well, most of the processes that have to happen in an insurance application are repetitive.
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
well, and I'll tell you why I don't think we're going to be. I mean, yes, our jobs being eliminated. It's interesting because when automation started, it was replacing a lot of workers and, quote unquote, blue collar. Now it's replacing a lot of white collar workers, especially coders. But when it comes to what I do, I know how to use it, right? I know how to strategize before I start prompting it. And I think that's a big difference, right?
Yeah, I
Again,
think just time.
You're not gonna do work. You're gonna train it to do your work. You're gonna train AI to do your work, and you're not gonna be the person doing the work. You're gonna be designing the work.
Yeah,
that's right. And I'll tell you that one of the latest advances with ChatGPT that again is fascinating and concerning. It has a voice mode where you could, and there's an app, of course, but you could use this on your computer or your phone where you can talk to it. And there are different personalities and voices you could choose from.
wow.
And what I've noticed in the last couple of weeks is when you talk to it, whereas before it was a little drier and a little kind of robotic, now it really feels like you're talking to a person. The voice will kind of pause. It'll say, it will.
I'll even say, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need a numb once in a while. You kind of
right.